1960s was as close to pure fire as a human being can get.
He's a bad man.
It was almost impossible for someone to be more at odds with what white America was about.
He emerged as a later hero.
Miami plays an enormous role.
Miami was the backdrop.
I still got the world!
It's an amazing American story.
This is how it happened.
This program was made possible by Bank United.
Nothing in Cassius Clay's past prepared him to become Muhammad Ali. Cassius Clay was one of two sons born to what was considered a middle-class black family in Louisville, Kentucky. His father was a fairly loud, bombastic, sometimes bitter man, drank to excess. It was not a happy home.
In sports, he found a meaning and a discipline and a sense of belonging.
Inside a boxing ring, that was the one place where he could control his own environment. It was as though God was telling him, this is what you're supposed to do.
For young black men in their late teens or early 20s, growing up in the United States in the early 1960s, you were a citizen of the country, and yet everywhere you went, there were signs reading white and colored. Legal segregation of restaurants, restrooms, stores, hotels. Constant daily reminders that you were a second-class citizen.
Cassius Clay goes to the Olympics in Rome. He wins a gold medal, and he's very proud to be an American. Then he comes back to the United States, and despite having won the gold medal, there are still restaurants he can't go in. He's still called a nigger in some places. He's not happy with it. Then he signs with the Louisville Sponsoring Group, which is a group of wealthy white men in Kentucky. They hired a trainer, Angelo Dundee.
So they called me. And they asked me how we would work with the kid over the phone. I said, very slow. I said, because the transition from amateur to pro takes time. They like that, so 20 minutes later they call me, the kid's be down tomorrow. He wants a fight.
He seemed very young man, wide-eyed, sparkling, smiling. He's in Miami. He never saw anything like that. He's with Angelo Dundee and everybody. He never saw anything like the first week Jim Ellis. An island of democracy in the middle of all this segregation.
Fifth Street Gym. Man, what a gym that was. Go up a flight of steps. Rickety. Sometimes we get mad something and bring it over to the wall. We covered the holes in the wall with the show cars. It was really something to see.
It was just a grimy working place. It had a feel that you can't get anywhere else except a boxing gym.
What you needed to be in the Fifth Street Gym was to tell ambition to be somebody, ambition to pay the price, to work hard to help us now, and to desire to learn from the champion. Because when you went there, you were a champion. If somebody said, round one, they need a middleweight, just go in there and find yourself fighting middleweight champion of the world. You ain't like to sell him, but you could.
Nice kid. I mean, let me tell you, he wanted to be a fighter. He just walked into the gym, he would light it up. He was that kind of young man.
Cassius, how do you feel today? Pretty good. How you doing? I hear you met Don Juan today. How was it? Wasn't too friendly. What do you have to say? You didn't even shake my hand. What are you gonna do about that? Now you must fall.
And everybody in the gym loved him. Thought that was great. Everybody thought this is our guy. This guy's gonna be the guy.
Cassius, how do you rate yourself as a fighter?
Well, I wouldn't want to do too much bragging about it, but everybody that watches me fight or everybody that has witnessed one of my bouts, they say that I'm the greatest that they've ever seen.
I got him a room with the Charles Hotel in Oaktown.
Overtown was not as historic black community. It really was established in 1896 when the railroad came around. Miami was founded as a community. But there's an absolute in culture, education, social life, anything that you could get in Harlem, you could get in Overtown. It was just like it was restaurants, movie theaters, conversations. For many years it was a very hard black community.
Miami was really a little bit ahead of the civil rights movement.
Blacks had their own position, comfortable in themselves, and didn't pay attention to the whites, and the whites did the same. The whites had their little Burdines and George Marshall. Oh, come in here.
I took him shopping to one of the largest department stores in South Florida and in Miami, Burdines. There was some very nice shirts and they were on sale. And other people were trying them on. The salesman came over and said, "We don't allow blacks to try on clothes." I couldn't believe this. Here I am, supposedly in a more enlightened town. He's not trying on clothes in my store. And he isn't in any major department store in downtown Miami. At that point, Cassius pulled me in the sleeve and we went over and talked, and he said, "Look, I don't want to get in this kind of trouble. The police will come and that's going to be bad for me." So he said, "Let's go to there's nice stores in the black section." So he showed me where they were, and we bought him some really nice clothes at and some neat shoes at the black store.
Racial segregation was not as severe as it was, say, at Atlanta or in New Orleans, but nevertheless, it still existed.
As a kid, didn't have a car. A lot of times you would run across the causeway and come to the South Beach. One day the cops stopped him, big skinny kid running across the highway, helter skelter. Some man hooked up his fighter. And then they said, they called me up and said, "This?" I said, "Yeah, he is. It's the great fighter."
You don't get left up because I thought it was beautiful.
Angelo was the perfect trainer for Cassius Clay because he let Cassius be Cassius in and out of the ring. Angelo understood immediately that Cassius did things all wrong from a technical point of view, but he could get away with them because of his speed and his reflexes.
Well, I'm sure any heavyweight that follows me in the ring for 6 or 7 rounds, he's mine after that, if he's still standing.
The newspaper guys at first, his first 6 fights, they thought he was too awkward. Pull back from punches, fast hand, don't move. They thought, too much. But I said, look, it'll smooth out.
One of the issues that the older sports writers had with him was his unorthodox style. He was leaning back and away from punches. Well, everybody knows that somebody just needs to step forward, you're off balance, and hit you.
He moves around so much that he really didn't get set, but he was usually moving so fast and concentrating on the whole razzle-dazzle that he didn't show for quite a while that he could punch.
Angelo just tried to build on what Cassius Clay did naturally.
I made him feel he innovated everything. Because you got to do that with star quality. So I'm just a flunky. I'm there, showing him, do this, do that. But it worked. Come out of the gym, the ring one day. And I said, "Man, that jab of yours is really snapping that guy's neck back. That's getting right in the small of his back. You're bending that knee perfect." Next day he would do it.
That was a jab. He threw it like this. He didn't throw a jab like this. He flipped it. Called it snake whip. And all of a sudden he stands still and knew it the right hand.
And he combined that velocity with the power of the heavyweight, and he created a whole new thing. We never saw a heavyweight fighter like that. We have not since.
I mean, the first fights were like exhibitions. It was so easy. Only the pain of that finish. I mean, he was like George Marshall. He was a really powerful fighter, hard to get an empty like that.
Hashimura is going around popping off, and he's inventing a lip buckle for me. See, I've earned a reputation as the Louisville lip. Well, since he's going to invent a punch called the lip buckle, and I'm the one who usually doesn't pop it off, but he's smart, so I cut this from 8 rounds to 4 rounds.
The media fell in love with him because what he could give them. He gave them so much. They had something to write about.
He picked up any kind of PR that would work. I come by, and he's in the swimming pool. He has a body like a Greek god. Everything is perfect. He was gorgeous. He's standing there in a perfect boxing pose. Perfect. And he's boxing. And he's going like this. And he's going like that. and he's going like this. I asked him, why are you doing this? And he said, oh, an old boxer taught me if you push against the water, you're going to exercise. Well, later, that wicked smile came on and he winked at me. And I just, oh my God, this whole thing just put over. He thought these things up. He thought up the idea. And I fell for it. And of course, I wanted to make the pictures, so, you know, it made great pictures.
He saw the publicity it brought. Then what did the publicity equal? A larger and larger presence on the American stage. Back to play.
To a different level, you know, with his float like the butterfly, sting like the bee, and things like that.
You know how great I am. I don't have to tell you about my strategy. I just let my trainer tell you, Bodine, come here. Bodine, tell him, what are we going to do? We're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. That's what we're going to do. You heard. That's my trainer. He's telling you.
We would rhyme around the barn shop, and he came in and he started listening to that, and he said, this is going to be my gimmick.
He will be mine in round 9. And if he makes me sore, I'll cut it to 4. Thank you very much. And if that won't do, we'll get him in 2. If he run, we'll get him in 1. And in your heart, you know I'm right.
He was the great walker. Two led Coach George in Las Vegas.
I saw a gospel of one thing going to New York. The place was down back with people. Cars with beautiful mouths. They literally beat, but they paid $100 for any time beat. The car was walked out with a little silver hair. And he was walking so proud. People were good. When he died, he was
I'll kill him. I'll annihilate the bull. I can't lose. I'm the greatest.
So I got this from Gorgeous George. I said, this is a good idea. Look, he's getting ready. So I start talking.
I am the greatest. I cannot be beat. I'm too pretty to be a fighter.
What he's doing is he's taking the American culture, what's in the air at the time, and he invents something called Cassius Clay, the greatest. It's a self-creation. That's a very American thing. And Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali, to me, is writ large one of those self-invented American characters.
Cassius Clay understood that ultimately we're just hungry for copy. And so if you give us copy, as long as you give us copy, you can pull our strings and we have to write about you. And Cassius Clay was able to frame the story. The narrative was his.
They came to that Fifth Street Gym and was like a magnet.
Yes, we parked right over here.
Everybody wanted to see this kid because he was something new, something bright. And Fifth Street Gym was the theater, it was the place.
I am the greatest.
The world was his stage, and wherever he went, that became his stage. It just so happened that Miami was the backdrop.
Everybody from New York, California, they wanted to come to Florida because of sun and fun.
We're on Miami Beach now. This is where all the rich people live.
All the commentators and sports writers, big columnists, radio, television people love to come to Miami and stay on Miami Beach.
A lot of Northerners were coming in. Jackie Gleason's nationally televised show was coming out of Miami Beach.
He brought Jackie Gleason around one night, Burt Lancaster. Oh, I can just go on, naming the stars that came through.
When these great entertainers would finish their work on Miami Beach at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they would come over to Overtown. They would go into the Harlem Square Club or some of the other clubs and then play until dawn.
free.
Those places partied hard. It wasn't 2 seconds before the people in the ghetto said, leave him alone. He's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Don't offer him broads. Don't offer him booze. Don't give him a drink. Don't offer him pot. He doesn't smoke.
And the guy still lived in Overtown where he could have been a player, you know, and everything else. He abstained. He was something else, you know. A lot of people, you know, early in his career, they thought he was gay, for Christ's sake. There were so many girls around him, but he would train. He wouldn't mess around.
Boxing was a magnet for emotion and racial identity, the sense that this is one of ours, and people identified very heavily with boxers.
They just idolized him. Every move he took, there was crowds and crowds of kids.
He never did not have time for the kids. There were times in the community where he would set up on the front lawn. Movies, mostly fights. You know, Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. But the old reel-to-reel, kind of ticker tape type stuff. And he'd have lawn chairs out and kids would sit in the grass. But we'd have 20, 30 community folk, you know, most of the kids out watching fight films on Friday and Saturday night. It was just really, really special.
Thank God the bell rang.
Cook should have won that. And I believe that if Henry didn't cut so easy, he would have had a chance to be a champion.
He'd shown a weak chin. He'd been knocked down. He hadn't shown great punching power. And because he had played the role of the clown for so long, with his poetry and his mugging and his gimmickry, people were inclined to not take Cassius Clay seriously as a fighter. In 1964, there was one heavyweight champion in the world. He was going to reign forever.
He was so good that nobody thought anybody in the world could ever beat him.
Some of the things was the greed, poor, cast off, low bucks in prison, hands out being the mob, when the mob completely dominated boxing. Some of the things was the nightmare in the imagination of the frightened white populace in the late 50s, early 60s.
Weston was virtually invincible, just a dreadnought of a fighter, and he had this very forbidding, intimidating, utterly hostile manner about him. This guy was a headbreaker. That's how he went to prison. And in prison, he was a headbreaker. He was feared.
Sonny Liston, I watched him here in the gym a few months ago. He was here to fight Howard King. And he can hit a guy in the elbows and just about break his arm.
We used to go to Liston's fights. We used to challenge him.
Liston receives the congratulations to the victor, scorns Cassius Clay, who's heard to say, Liston's not great, he'll fall in 8.
By the time Cassius Clay got to Sonny Liston, the general consensus was that Sonny Liston would annihilate him.
I really thought Liston was going to murder him.
Liston was the killer. Liston the destroyer.
Everybody's telling him he's crazy. Don't get to that guy. Wait till he gets older. I mean, this is going to kill you.
They figured my guy was going to get mangled.
You had to do something to diffuse that. And to diffuse that, he thought of all these high school stunts that he pulled on Sonny, which were demeaning, insulting.
When the guy went to camp and he harangued him with loudspeakers and stuff. Come out, you ugly bear, right in this home grounds.
I don't know whether that was what was necessary to maintain his confidence. He just repeatedly talked about what he's going to do to him when he get him in that ring. Big old ugly bear.
And I think listening got where this guy, hey, this guy's really off the totem pole.
Sonny didn't understand it. Sonny said, what's the matter with this kid? I mean, everybody should be scared to death of me. I mean, I should kill everybody. I mean, if I catch him in an alley, I'll send him over the box.
I saw Sonny Liston a few days ago, Jack. Ain't he ugly? He's too ugly to be the world champ. The world champ should be pretty like me.
This had to be somebody who was whistling past the graveyard, somebody who had to be scared, who was trying to, keep his courage up before he was destroyed.
That would be the biggest comeback in the century. And if you like to lose your mind, be a fool from that whole time.
Harry Benson, the great photographer, had set up a shot with the Beatles to take a picture with Cassius Clay, which they did not want to do.
John Lennon said, no, I know this guy is a big man, and he's going to get beaten. Get the other one who's going to beat him. Sonny Liston, we want to be with a champion.
Suddenly, the door opens. They cross it. There is Cassius. Oh, Beatles! And then they followed him out, like a 8th grade class trip. They followed him out into the gym. They lined up. He hit the first one. They all went down like dominoes.
They were all the funny ones, and they were funny. But he was better than they were. He was funnier.
The 60s at the time was not sort of an advertising concept. It was not a set of pop music hits. It was a period of near revolutionary change in American life and the American psyche and in American relations between and among peoples and races and the rest.
In April and May of 1963, you have the single most important urban mobilization in the desegregation struggle in the South. That's in Birmingham. King is jailed. Thousands are jailed. In September 1963, you have the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, the murder of 40 black men. The month before, you have the March on Washington, D.C. 250,000 Americans, black and white, demonstrating, pressing the Kennedy administration to push Congress to adopt national civil rights legislation. In November 63, you have the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It was inescapable if you were a black American. Living in this country in 1963-64, not to have been profoundly moved and touched by these events. That was the context in which the Sonny Liston Cassius Clay fight occurred. Cassius Clay, if he had continued to play the role of a kind of engaging, handsome buffoon, would have been the darling of the sports media. But when the rumors began to swirl leading up to the Liston fight that Cassius had been clearly seen in the company of Malcolm X, that really deeply shook a number of insiders in the sports media.
I saw Malcolm X speak once. I was a boy. I was 17 years old in Atlanta. I'd never seen anything like it. I never heard anybody talk like that. It scared me to death.
We declared our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this place, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
Malcolm X, once he got to know Cassius, he absolutely adored him and treated him like a younger brother. And the feeling was mutual.
The movement was called a powerful, mysterious force in America that was going to be able to mobilize all the blacks into a force that wouldn't go into the army and would challenge traditional authority. And they had this fiery leader, Malcolm X, who of course was not him. It was Elijah Muhammad.
A group that says that whites actually, far from being superior to us, are inferior to us. that black Americans should take pride in who they are. That kind of message would appeal to a young black man who felt deeply aggrieved at being mistreated and looked down upon.
I think what the Nation of Islam wanted him was a kind of comfort, family, a sense of being smart that he had never found before.
The white man has told you, I'm an Indian didn't want you. Trust you. And for fun. Bring her up to a real Indian.
Well, isn't the Malcolm right in there? That's what he wanted to hear. And then they said they were good for their part. Remember the point about how they were very and loved. There were people who went to the penitentiary, came out of the penitentiary, and continued their criminal ways. Now they were still had breaks for much of their business. They looked
He had to keep this growing interest in the Nation of Islam a secret. The promoters, having learned about it before the fight, damn near called the fight off. They were terrified that if this got out, that he was tied up with Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, that nobody would come to the fight, that his image would be even more tainted than it was, because a lot of people didn't like him. He bragged, he predicted these rounds. He was too, forgive me, uppity was the word of the cultural moment. So they kept this a secret.
It's the morning of February 25th, the day of the big fight. Now we'll see the craziest weigh-in in all boxing history.
Traditionally, the weigh-in before a major fight is kind of a brief ceremony. Well, it made absolute sense for Cassius Clay to take that to the extreme and turn the weigh-in into an enormous event itself.
Screaming, hollering, you'd think they're crazy. I mean, now we're in the weigh-in. They kept right on going all the way through.
And they just thought he was crazy. And of course, in the prison yard, that's the one thing you have to watch out for. You have to watch out for a fight with a guy who's crazy. And it really spooked Sonny Liston.
It seemed so evident that he was out of control that the Miami Beach Boxing Commission physician said his blood pressure is dangerously elevated, his pulse is dangerously elevated, and that's not the way I think a fighter should be going into a big fight.
They thought they were going to cancel the fight. Forget about it. The weigh-in. He said my guy was scared to death.
Everybody in boxing said he's not going to last 2 rounds. This was a baby in there with a brute.
There was this sense, at least in my house and in my heart, that, this might be ugly because he didn't look like he could beat Sonny Liston.
First Liston fight, you got to remember, nobody gave my guy a chance. Nobody gave him a shot.
In the back of our minds, we hoped sincerely that he would do it. But there were little question marks because of the ferocity of this guy.
I understood perfectly that I should really enjoy this week as much as I could, that I'd never see Cassius Clay again. And hopefully he wouldn't be so physically damaged, he wouldn't be able to enjoy the rest of his life.
Coming in that sunny, that great look, and there he comes up the ring stairs.
Liston he looked like a monster man.
The heavyweight
King Kong coming in, that big a guy.
It's the first time we had really seen him. There was a collective gasp. Cassius Clay was much bigger.
Head Liston with the sail, but you got to stare up. You can't not staring down, but my guy's tall.
all set now. World heavyweight boxing title on the line. Cassius Clay on the move as we see, looking to get sight of one. Carrying his left hand dangerously low.
They get in the ring together. And the most important attribute he plays on all kinds of which is so fast. Too fast to listen to.
take him apart. Then we couldn't believe it.
The first round showed people, hey, this kid can fight.
Champion Joe Louis. Look at the guy yawning. Tell us what you think at the end of one.
Hey, Clay, completely hot Clay started listening to this round. I hope that Clay don't get too confident too, that he don't be over knocked out.
As much as there was this mounting feeling through the fight, Cassius Clay could really fight, he's really in control. There was always the understanding that Liston had a bomb. At some point, the foolishness would stop, and he would just hit him, and hit him really hard. And that would be the end of Cassius Clay.
Liston was going out there missing the wild that folks.
Liston realized what a dumb job that guy had. Liston's head popped back like this. His neck go back. Liston just snapped the jab.
Cassius Clay lands a 1-2. And suddenly there are welts under Liston's eyes, that one of which is cut open and is starting to bleed.
Sonny has a big mouth below his left eye. He has a cut below the eye, and he's getting hit with all the punches in the book.
Liston was bleeding, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, but Liston had his best round there. He came back a little bit because he started to get to my guy a little bit.
Hold the ball. Cassius is a bit hurt.
To me, there seemed to be an air of inevitability hanging over it. It's just a question of time before Liston tags it.
And then Liston, of course, tries to cheat.
They're working on the cut below the
He told his corner to juice his gloves, to put some kind of astringent substance on his gloves. So in a last-ditch of effort, he could blind Clay and win.
Joe Polino's taking care of the cut. Joe was a great cut man. I think Joe used Marcel solution, which is ferric chloride. That burns the tissues, which is banned in boxing now because it's costly.
If you look at the film, clinches with him all the time by putting his face right here. He puts his face, where is his face is, right? And he got that on. That, just one little tiny spinkle of that stuff in your eye, and you feel like you've got an iron in your eye.
He went back to the corner, and at that point, Angelo Dundee performed his most important service ever for Cassius Clay.
What do you think is going through this youngster's mind?
I told him to sit down. He told him to cut the gloves. I said, wait, you can't cut the gloves, so you need your gloves. Sat him down. Let me see. So he's blinking. I sort of put water in his eyes. I put the sponged him clean.
And Angelo says, listen, kid, this is